Hi there, it's Nicole from Mama Elephant, and today I have a happy anniversary card featuring several of the new products from the April 2017 Mama Elephant release. I am using some dies from the Framed Tags Lafayette collection, some pretty peonies, flowers, and greetings from the Wishing You stamp set, all combined for this soft and pretty anniversary card. This could also definitely, depending on which greetings you choose, you could make this a birthday card, a wedding card, a hello card, so many different things, especially with the Wishing You stamp set, there's lots of different greetings. What I did first was take a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I used a powder tool all over it since I'm going to be doing a little heat embossing with embossing powder. I'm going to start by stamping flowers from the Pretty Peonies stamp set. And what I'm doing here is trying to keep the flowers a little bit away from the edge because I am going to be using that large Lafayette frame. I keep using it for reference to stamp some flowers kind of along that bottom edge and up around the top left corner. I'm going to leave a little bit of white space. You wouldn't have to. You could definitely do flowers all the way around if you wanted to. They will all be visible, but part of them are going to be not really covered up, but overlaid with a piece of vellum. So you'll still be able to see the flowers through them, just not as clearly. So I want to keep the majority of the flowers, I want them to appear to be coming up from that frame. So once I have all of my flowers stamped, it looks a little funny when I'm starting since none of them are along the edge of the cardstock piece. I'm going to heat set that, and I want to make sure that I get everything embossed really well, simply because it's going to make it a lot easier for coloring these in with some Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. And I love watercoloring with these markers. I think it makes it so super easy, and it also is fantastic when you maybe aren't real comfortable watercoloring. It is a great forgiving way to watercolor if you use some embossed areas, simply because it holds the ink in place and it doesn't tend to migrate outside of the lines. The embossed areas create little wells. The colors I'm using are shown across the bottom of the screen here. I'm simply taking my markers, blending out the greenery areas first. Couple colors of my favorite, or couple shades of my favorite green colors. Then I'm going to start with my pinks for the peonies themselves. I'm using 3 different colors. Wiping the tip of my lightest marker off on my scrap paper several times to make sure I have a really clean tip to my marker. And then blend out these colors. So lay down my dark color. I don't necessarily take a ton of time and do this really neatly. It's kind of sloppy, kind of messy. Blend it out with my midtone, then go in with my lightest color. In fact, if you did not want to apply water at all, you could simply blend out these markers blend out the colors rather with the markers themselves and completely forget about the water. You can use these markers with or without water, but I truly believe the key to getting great results, at least for me, is the Bristol Smooth cardstock. It's so smooth and the markers just glide on. It makes a huge difference when using the Zig markers. Very little bits of green here for some of the rest of this. I'm going to go ahead and lay down the color for the rest of these little green areas here along the bottom, and then I'll go ahead and fill in the rest of the pink. All the flowers are colored with the exact same shades of markers. I love this little bud. I think it's so pretty. Peonies are one of my favorite flowers. I love this stamp set. The floral stamp sets are some of my favorite because you can just, if you love flowers, these are gorgeous flower stamp sets. So many fun things you can do with these. And while the stamp sets do come with some greetings, you can use these floral images with any greetings that you have on hand, which I think is always fantastic. go ahead and color these last two really quick. Now, I went ahead and outlined the images just to help them pop a little bit more from the background. You could definitely leave it just as it is. I will show you the outlining here in just a little bit after I die cut my frames and things for my card. One of my favorite things to do is to overlay my images with some vellum, especially if I want to have certain layers, if that makes sense. And so what I'm going to do is take that label die from the Lafayette collection and die cut that from some vellum. Then I'm going to take the large Wishing You greeting from the Wishing You stamp set. I want to use my powder tool all over this vellum label and stamp the Wishing You right there in the center. It's going to be slightly larger than the label, so some of those swoops and flourishes will not be on the actual label itself, but that is fine. You can still read the greeting very easily. And I'm going to sprinkle on a little white embossing powder and then heat set this. When heat setting vellum, it's super important to make sure that your heat tool is really good and warmed up so it doesn't warp the paper. I also have a sandwich created from white cardstock, Stick It, Fun Foam, and another layer of Stick It. This is going to create a little bit of a dimensional frame. I did back it with a piece of acetate, mostly because I thought I was going to create a shaker, and then I ended up not creating the shaker. So really, you could skip this part if you wanted to. I could have removed it. I decided to just leave it on there. I attached the label with little dabs of glue behind the embossed areas, and then I'm going to place that directly on the acetate frame. I just decided that I thought the shaker was going to be too thick for this particular card design. I should have put the acetate under that first cardstock layer instead, and I didn't. So that is why I chose not to do it just for this card. But you definitely could. And I put something heavy on my label while that glue dries so that it stays in place. This is that blue marker I'm using. I'm simply tracing my design and then blending it out with my water brush pen. I am not adding blue ink to the whole thing. I'm just going around my flowers. It's going to help highlight them just a little bit and then blending it out. And I like to work in kind of small areas before the ink dries or absorbs into the paper too much. I think you get a little bit better results this way. So just blend and blend and blend. It does take a little bit of time, but I think it also helps make those images really pop. I will finish outlining and blending this out. You'll want to make sure that the background is good and dry before you put anything together. You could also hit it with a heat tool if you wanted to speed up the drying process a little bit. Once this is all dry, I'm going to remove the backing paper from the back of my die cut frame, dimensional frame, and attach that right over the background. I'm going to use just a little adhesive for that. I also have a scrap piece of black cardstock that I'm going to use the powder tool on and stamp a happy anniversary phrase to this using Versamark ink and heat setting with white embossing powder. This is where you could change up that greeting to be anything you wanted it to be. There are tons of greetings in the new Wishing You stamp set, something for almost every occasion. I will heat set this strip, trim it into a thin little strip and a little piece that I can attach right to the front of my card. I will attach everything to a white side fold card base and finish with a scattering of pretty pink posh sequins and pearl gemstones just to dress it up and give it a little bit of embellishment. Thanks for joining me for this card showcasing the Mama Elephant Lafayette Framed Tags die collection. The supplies I used are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring Mama Elephant stamps and dies that you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.